The Robert Saleh effect is real. All gas, no brakes for this 2025 San Francisco 49ers defense. Statistically, what is different about this squad? And a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky. Thanks everybody for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks for stopping in while you're here. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move or Be Moved. All right, guys. A very special Winky Wednesday episode. We get to rename Wink's segment once again, and I think we've settled on a name here for what it is that will no longer be changed. And by the way, I got to drop the sounder for today's weekly guest.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Action News 8 Sports with Nick Winkler.
Wow. Can't believe it.
There we go. Wink, what's happening, my man? Our weekly guest here, Mr. Nicholas Winkler, my former radio colleague, and the voice of the fan, as he is sometimes known. The new segment we just are going to call Wink Watch, right?
It's easy enough, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about whatever I'm keeping an eye on. I mean, I'm always going to have an eye on you, Morstead. So you better keep putting those balls inside the 20.
Yeah, probably is still a lot of special team stuff, but you know what? With how long these players last, we just can't name it after a player anymore. So Wink Watch coming to you weekly on Wednesdays. Whatever Wink wants to get into, we'll be doing the Wink Watch a little bit later in the show. First, though, Wink, talk to me about the San Francisco 49ers over 2 weeks. What has stood out to you before we get into some of this Robert Saleh statistical 49ers defense and what they're doing a little bit differently than they have in recent years?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there. I think Robert Saleh has made a huge difference on this football club. I mean, this defense looks fantastic. It looks so much different than it did a year ago. And it just harkens back to when Saleh was here last time, right? I love the way he schemes up plays. I love the way he brings so many men up to the line of scrimmage and then backs off. And I love watching that guy coach. Every time the camera cuts to him, he's got that enthusiasm going. And the offenses look good. I mean, you know, I hate to say that injuries have played such a huge part of the season yet again, but they have. And the 49ers have found a way to go 2-0. If they play a better team on Sunday, I think they probably lose that game because the Saints had chances. I mean, if they scored a touchdown on that opening drive, that's a whole different football game, right? If Olave doesn't drop that score, we're looking at things very differently. And they still had a chance late in the game to go down and win the football game, right? So the 49ers have been very fortunate here so far to start the season. I was very happy to be wrong with my Winkstradamus prediction. So home opener this weekend. We got the Cardinals coming to town, and you better play some better football than you did on Sunday.
Wink, with you picking the Saints to win in week 2 before the season started, you had a lot of 49ers fans and a lot of our listeners sweating when Brock Purdy got hurt, and then all of a sudden that game's close. People were cursing your name. I just want you to know the power that you wield when you make your predictions as the Winkstradamus that you are now known. So,
don't worry, they let me know. Okay, don't worry. Yeah.
Hey, Croc, I think that we'll get into. I want to talk man versus zone coverage rates, blitz rates, and a lot of the things that we're seeing so far through 2 weeks of the season on Robert Saleh's defense. But just big picture, when you watch the 49ers defense play, the big thing to me is how much it's just less static than it has been. Wink was talking about it. Guys moving around with offenses, how they move so much in motion, and it gives them an advantage. I like seeing defenses move around too. Take some of that advantage back. Confuse what the guys on the other side of the field are seeing. You got people mugged up at the line of scrimmage, dropping people back. You show one coverage, you switch to another coverage, bringing more blitzers, personnel groupings. It's a much different unit than even the Robert Saleh version we had seen before with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I love the movement. All right. Pre-snap movement, post-snap movement, not giving the opposing offense a clear picture of what's going on, especially when you have a young quarterback behind center like you do with Spencer Rattler, who has, he's just young and inexperienced. Now, even within that, I'd say he probably had a better game than a lot of us would have thought. Threw 3 touchdowns, had 0 interceptions, should have had 4, like we talked about with the Olave drop in the end zone. So I think the 49ers right now, we're just going to continue to watch and see how they get better each week. I thought they did a solid job against the Seattle Seahawks, held them to 13 points, clearly gave up more points than they would like against the Saints. And at one point gave up a 100-yard rusher, but I think on maybe his last carry, he lost a yard or 2 yards or something like that. So put him right under 100 yards, but 99 yards to Alvin Kamara. That's not as ideal. Matter of fact, I think they said it on the broadcast, like that was his 11th 100-yard game, rushing game of his career. And he lost a yard on the carry, and it took that away from him. So he's still stuck at 10. But it's always better to be able to clean up things in a win as opposed to a loss. So I think there's a lot of areas where the 49ers need to improve defensively. I think Robert Saleh would tell you, hey, I got a lot of young guys that we're trying to bring along here defensively, some of these young rookies and second-year guys. So I'm very optimistic that eventually it'll get to more of the Robert Saleh defense that we're used to seeing. But there are some early returns that we really like. And I agree with Wink. A lot of movement, and that's exciting for me to see.
Much less static. And one of the big things we saw during the offseason for the 49ers personnel-wise was they, revamped especially the interior, but a lot of the players on the 49ers defensive line, aside from Nick Bosa, are different than they were last year. And they had a lot of size, and they drafted 2 315-plus pound defensive tackles. And it was like, okay, well, who's going to be the pass rushers inside? This is very interesting. And I think it clearly, now looking back, and it's like, yeah, Michael Williams, okay, he'll probably move inside a little bit. And Robert Saleh is like, no, not just one defensive end is going to move inside. We're just going to play with all defensive ends on passing downs. So Yetur Gross-Matos and Michael Williams on the inside, with Bryce Huff on the outside, Nick Bosa on the outside, even Nick Bosa moving around a little bit. I think he's had 6 snaps on the interior so far this year. He only had 11 all of last year. So Robert Saleh moving the pieces around and utilizing his best pass rushers in pass rush situations, and utilizing more size in the situations where he wants more size. And we're seeing a big difference for the 49ers across the board with pass rush rates, win rates, and how they're playing against the run as well. So you can kind of see the plan all start to come together now for Robert Saleh. And he was in the lab, because it's different. It's different than Robert Saleh's past defense with the 49ers. And it's different than his defense was with the Jets as well. And so playing to his personnel is also part of it, which you really love to see. So much less static defense for Robert Saleh's unit here. Before we get to the other stats on the defensive man versus zone and pressure rates and blitz rates and things like that, one quick nugget that is really impressive from Bryce Huff's game-ending sack last week. It took him 2.44 seconds post-snap to get that sack, which is the fastest recorded sack so far this season per Next Gen Stats. And actually, what's funny is the game winner from week 1, according to Next Gen Stats, from Nick Bosa, is also top 5. That was 2.58 seconds. And all the other fastest sacks in the NFL came from like linebackers or safeties or defensive tackles that were like blitzing or coming straight up the middle. Bosa and Huff are the only ones in the top 5 that were defensive ends that had to go around the edge. And Huff's was ridiculously fast, how he got the edge, ducked under, and got to Spencer Rattler and called games. So all gas, no brakes, man. We're seeing it on the field right now for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I mean, the way D. Winters is playing right now too. I mean, he is such a great compliment to Fred Warner. Like those two out there, whoo, that's a nice little tandem for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, more on what is different about Robert Saleh's defense this time around with the San Francisco 49ers so far through 2 weeks of the 2025 season, and flag football in Christian McCaffrey's future. Kyle Shanahan as well. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, well, can't use Bryce Huff's sack because that didn't move it forward. That ended the stinking game. So I'm going to go with the touchdown pass from Mac Jones to Juwan Jennings, 42-yard catch and run. It was Brock Purdy, who didn't even play in the game. It was his favorite play of the game as well. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime. And if you're a sports fan, if you're someone who ever wants to go to a concert or comedy show, you got to have Gametime in your pocket and ready to go. The app gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Gametime today. All right, guys. So taking a look at the numbers here from Robert Saleh's defense now in the San Francisco 49ers in 2025. Man coverage is down. In fact, man coverage is below any Robert Saleh defense, whether it was the 49ers, the Jets, and lower than any 49ers defense as well since 2019. The data only goes back here from PFF to 2019. Only 15% man coverage versus just about 77% man coverage in 2025 so far, Croc. And what's interesting is last year with the Jets, Robert Saleh ran twice as much, 31% man coverage. Is that like just the Sauce Gardner effect? But it's interesting, and a lot of we're seeing a lot of zone blitzes as well from Robert Saleh. He's dropped Yetur Gross-Matos. You'll see him drop Mykel Williams. I've seen numerous defensive linemen drop, and then they'll overload another side. So again, we're talking about a defense that's much less static, and that means he's getting a little bit more exotic with the way he runs things, and he's playing zone behind it right now, Croc.
Are you able to see what's the league average? Because I feel like 17% is low. I feel like even 31% is kind of low.
Yeah, league average over the course of since 2019, league average is 26%. Man.
Wow.
So, and last year, the 49ers under Sorensen, and a lot of the numbers were very similar with Wilkes and Sorensen in 2022 and 2023 for the 49ers. It was about 24%. So, about, 9-10% less man for the 49ers so far. And it's a little bit of a small sample in only 2 games because, game script and things could possibly change. And your opponent, you might play one team a little bit different. But 15% so far, which is the lowest of any Robert Saleh Jets defense, the Niners Saleh Jets defense, or any other D'Amico, Sorensen, Wilkes versions of the 49ers defense.
Yeah, that's even surprising. I think a lot of teams are playing like quarters on the early downs right now. This is the 49er effect from back in the day. I think they were under even Robert Saleh were one of the more, in the sense of, percentage on the higher teams playing cover 4 on early downs. And that was the reason why Eric Armstead was at defensive end. So a lot of fans are like, well, he's not Von Miller coming off the edge. And it's like, well, on early downs, they're not looking for Von Miller coming off the edge. They're looking for someone who can play too high, right? So the whole reason for the too high defense was the answer to what Kyle Shanahan was doing with the play actions. So when teams were single high, but they had 8 in the box, and you hit them with those play actions, when you had those deep crossers, they didn't have a backside safety that was responsible for it. And it ended up having a gaping voids in the defense on the back end. So you have big catch and run opportunities. So their answer to that was to go too high and have bigger defensive ends. So now we're more stout versus the run, even though we have one less body in the box. And teams started going to more quarters, and the 49ers were big on that. And that's why Eric Armstead on early downs played in, and then he would slide inside on passing downs. But teams still definitely, I would like to see, if we don't know the split, that's fine. But the third down percent of man versus zone. And I bet it's a much higher percentage of man coverage on that specific down.
I can bring that up for you in a second. I misspoke, though, not 26%. 27.8% is the league-wide man percentage. 27.8% man, 66% zone. And those numbers, you're not crazy. Those numbers don't equal 100% because of different, like short yardage or different situations are taken out of that.
Right. And that 15%, is that pretty equal between game 1 and game 2, or does it kind of, stack heavier in game 1 or game 2?
That's a good question. I don't have that. I can pull it up, but I'm going to try to find the third down stats first because that is also telling. And let's go.
So, Croc, while he's looking that up, I was going to ask, do you think they're running a lot less man because they have such a young secondary and they're trying to kind of keep guys, not just stuck man to man, and they're kind of trying to get two guys, covering each receiver sort of thing, like covering their bases sort of thing?
I think things can be a lot more game plan specific to the team that you're playing. I know if I'm playing, I don't want to tip my hand too much. I never know who's listening to the podcast and they may play against me. That happened to me. There's been a couple times now where I went into coaching games, and before the game, my guys are warming up. Sometimes I'll look at the other team, and people like, "Hey, I love the pod." Like, so I never know who's listening. But we are more. It depends on the kind of team we're playing or the type of quarterback we're playing. And if I'm playing a team that I see the quarterback doesn't throw into zones well, we'll run a much higher percentage of zone coverage. Typically, we are a very man-heavy defense because we have really good guys on the back end, and that allows us to send certain blitzes and things like that, get exotic with it, and we feel like, well, our athletes are really good on the back end. So, but we played a game week 2, second game of the season, and we won 56-0. Not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but we played a lot more zone in that game because we saw an inexperienced quarterback that struggled to throw into zone. So I think that's the same thing at the NFL level. Obviously, you have better quarterbacks than some of the ups and downs you get in high school, but you definitely can. It definitely can be dependent more so on the type of quarterback you're playing. So if I'm playing Spencer Rattler, I'm probably more prone to play more zone. If I'm playing Sam Darnold, a guy who has been turnover prone throughout his career, I may play more zone. If I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, even though he has turned the ball over, but he's comfortable throwing into those windows, I may go a little bit more man to make him have to throw tighter, more contested passes.
So third downs around the league, it jumps from 27.8% to 41.2% man percentage. That is league wide. And for the 49ers so far this year, that jumps from 15.4% to 38%. Man percentage on third downs. Yeah. Blitz rate is the next one I want to talk about, guys. Oh, by the way, one more note on coverage. 49ers running 38% cover 3 so far this year through 2 weeks, 20% cover 1. So single high, they're in over half the time, 58% single high coverage, and then cover 4, 17%. They were in cover 4, I think, a lot more last year. And so Saleh bringing the single high back to the 49ers as well.
Now that's surprising. Not in a bad way, but just that's different because I feel like that has gone a little bit away from the trends that we've seen with coverage over the last, 4 years or so. It's crazy how fast this stuff goes by because when I was talking about Eric Armstead and stuff, like that, and I'm talking about with Robert Saleh, it feels like it was yesterday. And Robert Saleh was a head coach for several years, and then
4 years ago.
Gosh, that time flies. Time flies. Yeah, my thoughts and it might be outdated on the cover 4, but it just seems like yesterday we were having that conversation of teams going to the cover 4 to combat the Kyle Shanahan offense that a lot of teams in the NFL are, trying to get used to defending.
Yeah, and then everyone runs it, and then every team on offense is like figuring out how to beat it, and then they figure out how to beat it, and the team's like, "Oh crap, we can't run that anymore. We got to go back to this other thing."
Yeah.
Just keep changing. It just has to be different, right? By the way, speaking of defensive coordinators, the way things are going in Houston and Miami, might have a reunion back with both D'Amico Ryans and Mike McDaniel back with the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff at some point soon. Those teams are really underwhelming right now. But it is good to have Robert Saleh back. And one of the other things that Saleh's defense is doing is it's blitzing more and getting home more. The 49ers blitz rate has jumped from 18.5 last year, which honestly kind of sounds high. It seems like they hardly ever blitzed in recent years. And they're definitely blitzing a lot more, 25%. So a quarter of passing downs, the 49ers are blitzing. And the pressure rate for the 49ers through 2 weeks has gone up from last year's 32.9% pressure rate up to 40% pressure rate for Robert Saleh's defense. So he's bringing the heat, and they're getting home. And even when they're not blitzing, getting home with Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff to close out games. So there you go.
That's what you want, right? Yeah. And now,
exactly what you want.
I can only imagine when you get some of the younger guys up to speed, and you get Michael Williams, who's just developing some pass rush moves, and now he's being a little bit more efficient getting to the quarterback, especially from that interior. That's when you start to really get a monster. They gave him some good pieces to work with, and by that, giving him, I'm talking about Robert Saleh. He's got some good stuff to work with, and he's probably thinking down the line like, "Ooh, I can't wait till year 3 of Michael Williams and what that's gonna be."
Right.
It was nice.
And they brought in Huff too to put no pressure really on Michael. They're like, "Hey, slow down, take your time." We got Huff, we got Bosa. Like, learn from these guys; they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're different. Like Michael Williams isn't built the same as Huff. Huff's 240 pounds or whatever, and he's running under the table. Michael Williams doesn't move like that or bend like that, but he's powerful. And Michael Williams was a little bit more active in that last game too. He was kind of throwing a few more moves out there. Alfred Collins, he was kind of hadn't done much in preseason and in week 1 and early in the second game too. It was like, okay, Alfred Collins, he's just not really doing much for me. And then there was like a series where he was like really active for a few plays. It's like, okay, seeing a little bit there. And then it was almost like he ran out of gas or something. And he's like, okay, maybe he needs to be on a pitch count right now. And he's still getting his wind or whatever. But it's baby steps. And these young players are going to come along at a certain pace. So Robert Saleh doing a phenomenal job so far. And we'll see when the opponents get a little bit tougher than the New Orleans Saints for the San Francisco 49ers. Up next, Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey playing flag football in 2026 and the Wink Watch next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NFL season, it is here. It is upon us, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff in week 3 with a can't-miss offer right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is phenomenal and fits how you like to bet. For example, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. If you feel momentum going a certain way, you can find week 3 and every weekly line through week 18 for your San Francisco 49ers. You can bet on your San Francisco 49ers to win a Super Bowl now that you've seen this 2-0 start. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Man, I've been telling you guys for a few weeks about my new Doer jeans, and I've been reaching for my new favorite pants almost every day. I've got 2 now, thanks to the new store in San Francisco. I got my pair of performance denim, and I got the no sweat pants as well. Shout out to my guy Marcus that helped me out in store. They were really helpful. Brand new store open here in San Francisco, Hayes Valley, and Doer are the most comfortable jeans I have ever worn. I love my Doer jeans because they have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, and they feel stretchy and super comfortable without looking stretchy. Antibacterial, Cool Max technology, regulates temperature, just a phenomenal pair of high quality jeans. And you get the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear, the best of both worlds, but it is all the way classic jeans wear style. And right now, go to 567 Hayes Street in San Francisco. The new Doer store just opened in Hayes Valley, so you can feel the difference firsthand. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online. Shop Doer, that is DUER, shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. All right, guys. Maybe I just have a cynical mind, and I'm too skeptical. But it came out yesterday that Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey will compete in the Fanatics Flag Football Tournament in Saudi Arabia in March of 2026. Apparently, Tom Brady. I see in the picture, Sauce Gardner's involved. A lot of big time players. I don't know who's fitting the bill for this and getting all these big time guys to play, because they're not going to go do this for free. But
I think we know. Are those the guys that did like the live
golf
stuff for golf?
That might be some
If
of
it's
that
those
weird
guys,
stuff
I think they got really deep pockets.
Yeah,
The one who was standing
imagine.
in the ring in the Canelo Crawford fight on
Dude.
Saturday.
Yeah.
The one thing that you can't have is Christian McCaffrey and his Achilles and his calf going and playing flag football in March after the NFL.
He said,
season.
"Hey, I bet I can for about 10 million."
Christian
Wait,
McCaffrey
you
better be
said
coaching this and not playing. That's all I'm saying.
you said Shanahan's playing in this?
I bet he'd want to. I assume Shanahan's coaching.
Okay, all right. Because I was like, is he going to be out there quarterbacking? Because he loves doing that. He loves it.
I wouldn't put it past him. We see it every day at practice when you go out there during training camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Croc, have you ever coached flag football? I mean, I can't imagine Kyle Shanahan going out there and running the ball 30 times in a flag football game is going to be very effective.
Well, Kyle Shanahan is an innovator. I think he figured out a way to dial up some interesting run concepts.
You know what happened is he's been at his kids growing up flag football games, and he's probably sitting there like uncomfortable, like, oh my God, I want to call this play. I would call this play right here. Look at this kid over here. You got to throw it on number 15 over here, and so he's probably been like doodling stuff. He's like, okay, if I ever coach flag football, I do it like this and like this.
It depends who you're playing. Like if you're playing against other real flag football players, then you might get your butt kicked. But if it's like, all right, it's just kind of other guys that are like Kyle or like CMC who, okay, let's go have fun, and maybe they play in like a little adult league or something like that. I think he'd be fine playing quarterback, to be honest. I think he'd be good playing quarterback. It would be different because there's certain things you could do, and they toss it and you could throw it, and they got different kind of rules. I don't think Sauce Gardner would be very good at it because you can't press. Like you have to like let a guy go free off the line. Like you can't have contact or whatever. So that might make Sauce Gardner look like Eric Crocker out there at this point. He's super grabby. So
yeah,
he might struggle a little bit. But CMC, I'd see him being really good at some flag football. He live out he would live out Brian Peacock's dream of just being a slot, a wide back.
Oh, that's true. Maybe that's the part
there we go.
Becoming full-time wide back that he should be for the San Francisco 49ers going forward.
Yeah.
I like that. It's time for the Wink Watch, which is the new name because the 49ers turnstile on special teams, we can't name it after players anymore. So from here on out, it's the Wink Watch. What have you seen from the early going special teams? Eddie De Niro making 2 of 2 on field goals. I think maybe just pranking 49ers fans with the first miss on the extra point, even though it's interesting. Pinero's got a really good field goal percentage in his NFL career. He's actually got a worse extra point percentage than Moody.
That's funny. His extra points, not his strong suit. Inside the 50 field goals, he's going to make almost all of those. And just so hilarious that, of course, he misses his first one, right? It's just like, oh, here we go again, and it just makes you start thinking, after having Tabor Pepper on the show, it's like, is it the snapper? Is it the holder? Because those are the two things that are the same. Those two things didn't change before this game. But of course, then, Panero went out, made the rest of his kicks the rest of the day. That was good to see. Obviously, I've been keeping an eye on Morstead. He had 4 punts in this game. 2 went inside the 20. He was 1 for 2 on that in week 1. So he's sitting right at 50% right now, getting kicks inside the 20. So solid so far. But really the biggest thing I watched in this game was Mac Jones. When they signed Mac Jones, I was like, yes, I love this, because Kyle wanted Mac Jones from day one. So for him to be able to go get him and teach this guy that he wanted to draft back in the day, and then to actually get a chance to use him. 49er fans never actually wanted to see Mac Jones play football. We want Brock Purdy out there every single week. But then when he did play and he stepped up the way he did, that drive to end the first half, that was a thing of beauty. That was really fun to see. Mac Jones, you got to love, having that solid backup quarterback, because how many quarterbacks are down right now around the NFL? 5, 6? And these guys, most of them wish they had a guy like Mac Jones right now ready to step in and play a game like Mac just played.
DeWink is on fire.
There we go. Our first ever, it's just a Wink watch now. Whatever Wink is thinking on every single week, we will have it for you here. And Wink, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for joining us once again. Thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in. Make sure you all are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And of course, Croc and I back tomorrow. We got a little crossover getting ready for week 3, the Arizona Cardinals. Prediction? You sticking with your preseason prediction? You got any predictions for us, Wink, on week 3?
Come on. You're winning the home opener. Let's go. 3-0, baby.
Yeah, 3-0. 3-0 start incoming for the San Francisco 49ers. Back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.